Hi guys. Man, I always wanted to come into that. I told Maria, I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? She said, well, it's your show. You do anything you want. So I just decided to come into that. There's two things you don't do in the South. You don't talk about a man's mother, and you don't work on Elvis's birthday. So if you're ever down south on January 8th, come see me, because that's Elvis's birthday, and I don't work. So I've got some cheap notes just in case. My name's Craig Watts. I am from North Carolina. I am a contract poultry farmer. I was at the this same deal last year. Some of you may remember me, but for you who don't, that is me. And I know I was kind of building a thing to come in and talk about the problems that exist for farmers, who specifically contract with these agribusinesses, and there are some problems out there. But kind of what I'd like to do today is talk about a little bigger picture. I'd like to put CAFO in the middle, go all the way around it with a circle as much time as time allows, and talk about some other issues. The poultry industry, the term they use to describe their business model is called vertical integration. Now, vertical integration, for you who don't know, is basically they own every process from here to here. They own every process from the egg to the time the product sits on the shelf, except for one thing they don't own, and that's the housing, which I own. I own the buildings, the land, I provide the labor, I pay all the bills associated with the operation, any labor that I hire to do the job, and that's out of my pocket too. So if they own all this, why come they don't own what I do? And the reason is very simple, is because there's no way they could do it as efficient, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper for them to talk a farmer into doing it and then let him become a captive supplier and then to go out and do it themselves. And kind of a layman's term or crude term, or a term we've kind of come up with, is these companies are actually farming the farmer. And if you want to get a little bit more technical with it, there is a term in economics, it's called economic holdup. That is where two people, say a processor and a farmer, are in a relationship that could be done much more efficient, much better if the two would cooperate, but one refuses for the simple fact that it may give the other a little bargaining power, and then they may even think that, well, it's going to cut into our profits too, and I'll just let you guess, who's getting held up in this situation. I've heard so many times that we're not making any money, we're not making any money. I've been in this thing 20 years, I've never heard the word profit from the company. Now, I've read articles where the companies were doing very well, but I've never heard them say it. But they would turn around in the next breath and talk about, vertical integration, it's the best thing since Wonder Bread. It is such an important aspect of our safe and our affordable food supply, blah, 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 blah. Well, hell, which one is it? It can't be both. You're either making money with an efficient system, or you're not making money because your system is inefficient. And I would go probably to the first one, making money with a system that is inefficient, because the way they can gain efficiency is when you farm the farmer or you have a captive supplier, you can demand that he be inefficient, and that's how you get efficient, if that makes sense. these guys, what they've done real well is they've mastered the art of deception by using deception. Kind of to end my story, if you're a farmer wrapped up in this thing, you are screwed, glued, and tattooed. I would hate to see a young farmer get into this business today, at this day and time. Just kind of really nothing positive anymore. I mean, we're just kind of treading water, grinding out days, and paying off debt. Enough about me. We're going to get out here in a circle now, and probably the first thing that comes to mind is the things you hear a lot about, and they're calling them superbugs. And can they become harmful to humans by feeding constant low doses of antibiotics to animals? And of course, the industry said, "Oh no, it's because these doctors are over prescribing these antibiotics," and that probably is part of it, but you have to look at more specific things, and I don't think you can deny the connection of MRSA, which is basically a staph infection, to a doctor overprescribing antibiotics, because MRSA comes from animals, direct contact with animals, mostly pigs. But this issue isn't a new issue. It's not a new issue by a long shot. In 1977, the FDA was going to take penicillin and tetracycline off the market, but they withdrew the proposal. Wonder why? They sought a voluntary reform from the meat mafia themselves for them to how do they put it here, to limit the uses, which makes about as much sense as putting Supreme unleaded in a rental car. There is a study done by a group of researchers that's pretty daggone solid on this, and it's, in the meantime, our scientists, our government, and our agribusiness, they're all around beating their gums and getting nothing done. The meat mafia, like I said, they will blame everything on human biotics, but half of all the meat sampled for U.S. commerce that they actually sampled, half of it had MRSA in it. That's MRSA. So, but the problem is now is it's showing up where there is not direct contact with the animals. And the other thing is it's antibiotic resistant. So buckle up. There's some companies that sit around and they market themselves as, "Oh, we're antibiotic free." And I remember Tyson 2 or 3 years ago, they had this ad running, and you think, "Oh, antibiotic free, and let's skip to the pasture and do." But bottom line is they were jamming the eggs full of antibiotics. They call it in novo vaccination, I think is the term, and it was ionophores, which is an antibiotic. When they got caught, I was like, "Oh, no, wait, that doesn't count. We don't put antibiotics in our feed." Well, you cram any eggs full with them, cuz, and you're calling your chicken's antibiotic. Can't do that. Well, guess what? Little pop on the wrist, business as usual. And then there's some that say, "Oh, yeah, we're antibiotic free, but we will administer antibiotics if our vets tell us to, if we have a health issue," and they run that under the guise of poultry welfare. There's a lot of issues that come that will make birds sick that happen before I ever see them. But the problem is say you've got 100,000 birds on your farm, and say 1,000 of them are sick. Well, the deal there is you administer it through the water. You can't very well go in there and pick out all the sick chickens and vaccinate them one at a time. You administer it through the water, so you basically giving 99,000 chickens a dose of antibiotics that really didn't need it. And that's the problem there. And then there's the issue of GMO grains that are being fed to these livestock. I know a lot of you guys are all into this stuff, and there's just traces of glyphosate, and then you got the BT deal with insecticides, and I think they're even trying to come up with a 2,4 deal now. But some of this stuff has been squashed. I think the alfalfa, they did finally get it on the market, but they kind of held it back for about 6 years, I think. And there were some other things. I think beets, wheat, all that got beat back down. So these companies can be beat. Monsanto can be beat. It's going to take a lot of persistence and a lot of patience, but it can be done. But the thing is, the GMOs are void of nutrients. You can also plant a plot of GMO and standard corn or organic corn for that matter, and in plots side by side, and they would look identical. Drought stress hits them. The GMO, it folds up like a cheap suit. With the organic, it kind of stands better and makes it through it a little better. And as far as harvest, you're not getting any more per acre with the GMOs. The GMOs certainly hadn't brought prices down that we're paying at the supermarket. So what's the benefit? Well, the benefit is Monsanto sells chemicals, and they eventually will, dominate, or they already dominated, but they may be the only player in the game in seed. Once all this stuff kind of cross-contaminates itself, it's game over, for heritage seeds and stuff like that. But, the GMO thing to me is like the big picture, and the CAFO is just part of it. The GMOs are, what you're seeing is just like major illnesses that used to be kind of sporadic, and now they have become epidemics. In the livestock, you'll see the same thing. Then that's a lot of reason they have to put a lot of this stuff in the feed. Is the nutrition is just not there that it would be with a conventional grain, and they're adding stuff like the micronutrients, the coppers, the zincs, and I think the most famous one is arsenic, and that's heavy metals. And man, if you get that stuff overloaded in your farm and get metal toxicity, hey, it's game over. You've just ruined your farm. But that's stuff that they don't tell you up front. When you sign these contracts. I can't tell you how many times over the last 5 or 6 years that I run across stuff that's just pure fraud that this industry commits, and nobody calls them out on it. Nobody holds them accountable. If they find them, it's a damn joke. The profit potential for ignoring the law is a lot more than the fine they'll have to pay if they get caught. And there's one instance where Tyson had two veterinarians from Mexico. They had their wives on the payroll. They did not work for Tyson, but they were drawing a pretty substantial salary, and they found some internal emails, and basically what it was is they paid those ladies. They were actually paying the vets, but through the ladies, so it didn't look too obvious, but obviously somebody caught on to it. And the reason they did that was to alleviate some of these problems that come up when poultry is shipped out to overseas. I don't think it was coming to the United States. I think it was coming to Japan. But they did that for years, and they were talking about it in emails, and they were concerned that he got caught, and blah 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 blah. And anyway, they got caught and they got fined. But that's like a violation of a little thing called the Federal Corruption Protection Act. But there again, a little pop on the wrist, business as usual. Pilgrim's Pride comes in, idles plants. 2 days out they forgot to tell the farmers 2 days out. They come in there and they're demanding these farmers upgrade to this new equipment. I know a story where a set of brothers spent $500,000 on the farm. They got one more batch of chickens. I know a guy personally here in North Carolina who spent $100,000 and got one more batch of chickens. I know a lady who got here in North Carolina who actually got her contract pulled, but she was lucky she was out of debt. But she had a friend who was pretty deep in debt, and when it happened to him, he pulled down a dirt road and shot himself, committed suicide. That ought to be a tipping point for anyone. I don't see any threshold of allowable suicides to let these jackals continue with business as usual and them not held to be accountable. Somebody